We all know that worrying a lot isn't good. The word worry carries a negative connotation with it. We know it's not a positive thing to be doing, and we all know that. We're all aware that we shouldn't be spending a lot of time worrying. But the majority of people that I know, and I'm looking in the mirror on this one, are more consumed with worry about the future, concern about things that are out of their control than they would care to admit. And we have a lot of ways, depending on what kind of person you are, to mitigate worry or tell ourselves that we're not worried. For example, if you're a religious person, you might say to yourself when a bad thing happens, oh, this is God's plan. This is God's will. It's out of my hands. Amen. But the whole time you're still very preoccupied with the bad thing that happened and worrying about this bad thing coming up happening. So you tell yourself that you're, letting go and letting God, but truthfully, you're still very, very worried about it. And the same thing can be applied to non-religious people as well. Non-religious people can tell themselves, it is what it is, life happens or whatever, but they're very frustrated, concerned, worried about a certain outcome in life happening. It's very human to worry, but it's my opinion that in general, worrying, especially about things that are completely out of your control, which is going to be most often, is a in general is a waste of your time. Worry. Anytime you are sitting down and worrying, anytime you're standing up and worrying, anytime you're worrying, that's time, precious time, and energy that you could use to do anything else, like a hobby or that can be de-stressing or something like that. It's just, again, we're just kind of back to the word worry and kind of the negative connotation it carries with it. And I agree. It's a large waste of time, in my opinion, especially when you're thinking about things that are out of your control. And yeah, it just takes away from time that you could be spending on things that you love, people you love, things that you love to do. Um, so when people often worry, for me, that means that they are hoping for the best possible outcome to occur. They want, in most situations, for the best outcome or an outcome that, at very least, an outcome that benefits them to be the end result. And again, these are things that are out of their control. They're just worried that the bad result, the result that they don't want to happen, will happen, and they really desire for these good results to happen from this thing that's out of their control. But what's reality like, right? I think you guys know it. In reality, and this is being realistic. This isn't being pessimistic. I'm a firm believer in pessimism not serving anybody. It's better to be realistic or optimistic. Realistically speaking, though, the bad result is going to happen at least half of the time when it comes to things that are out of your control. And worriers do not account for that, I feel. So if you're worrying about a specific thing and you understand that even if you worry, the bad thing can still happen 50% of the time, and yet you're worrying about issues maybe like 90-95% of the time, that's going to create a discrepancy that leads to disappointment. At least 90 to 95% of the time, you're thinking and hoping this good thing happens and really concerned about this bad thing happening. But 90 to 95% of the time, the good result won't happen at that percentage, maybe 50% if or 60% if you're particularly lucky. Um, so that sort of discrepancy can create lots of disappointment and can even create a sort of like why me attitude when you think about your own luck, because you spend all this time wanting the good thing to happen, so not wanting the bad thing to happen. So when it does happen at a realistic frequency and you're being unrealistic, you're going to get disappointed, and it could change your perspective on reality. You might think like you're just this super unlucky person that bad things happen to all the time. But when you understand that things out of your control, sometimes the good thing is going to happen, the thing that you want, and sometimes the bad thing is going to happen. When you're more realistic about outcomes and you let them sort of go out of your hands, then that can create a lot of it. Well, what it does is it allows you to let go of a lot of worry. When a bad thing happens in life, there's often no changing it. When a bad thing happens, you now exist in that reality where the bad thing happened. You cannot just switch realities. You know what I mean? And that seems crazy to say or to clarify, but I do feel like a lot of people spend time just wanting to be in a different reality sometime, when that precious time and energy thinking about, like, oh, if this just would have happened the way I wanted, then life would be so much better. But the thing is, it didn't happen the way you wanted. So what are you going to do? That's your reality now. You have that reality to deal with. And what is in your control is how you handle these certain events that happen that are out of your control. You can't control certain things, but you can control how you react to them. And that's very cliche. And we've probably all heard that. But again, there are just too many people out there. And again, I include myself in this, that allow their concern for the future to, at times, sort of dictate their life. When you understand that bad things are inevitably going to happen to you because it's part of the human experience, and you can stop worrying about that reality or specific bad things that may or may not happen, your time suddenly becomes free. You suddenly have all this time to, perform better at a hobby, for example, or go the extra mile at work. When you're not just overflowing with anxiety and concern for things out of your control, it just allows for so much personal, spiritual, physical, mental growth, that I just consider being stuck in that worry, spending time worrying about things out of your control. Getting rid of that is one of the fastest ways that you can improve your life's quality, and I am a firm believer in that. Now, it's easier said than done to be stoic about things that are out of your control, but once you understand that your worry has no effect on the result, hopefully that sort of logic can inspire you to not spend your energy worrying, because it was a waste of your time. You could have been doing something else that was more productive, that was more indicative of positivity. So that's my word for the day. That's my advice. Just in general, worrying about things that are out of your control is a waste of time, and that sort of worry can really compromise your happiness.